Omicron fears subside as shares climb. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. I want to have a look at this article from Yahoo Finance. Stocks cement gains as Omicron fears ease. So are we becoming more accustomed to the pandemic as it becomes endemic, everyone? Are people less afraid and less scared? Hopefully. Stock markets in Europe and Asia have cemented gains in light holiday trade, while the safe haven dollar eased on signs the Omicron variant would not significantly derail global economic growth. The greenback was set for its worst week in 4 months, while other risk-friendly assets, from Bitcoin to the Australian dollar, held onto their recent gains, buoyed by ebbing concerns over the severity of the new COVID-19 variant. A top European equity benchmark on Friday hovered around 1-month highs after a week of gains, and the MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan added 0.1% after a record closing high for the S&P 500 on Thursday. Even though it is highly infectious, studies have shown how Omicron is less severe than the Delta strain, fueling optimism about a limited fallout from new restrictions and setting the MSCI World Equity Index for a 2% weekly gain. The most popular motive for the rally is the growing perception that Omicron is less lethal. This certainty helped raise appetites for return, but self-fulfilling expectations of Christmas rallies and reduced liquidity also came into play, said Giuseppe Serrasale, fund manager, and Antilia in Milan. I still think the news of Omicron is good, but not as good as the market is taking it, so it really depends on how much the contagious will fly. US equity and treasury markets will be closed on Friday for the holiday. In Europe, stock markets in several countries, including Germany, Italy, and Switzerland, were also shut, while boroughs in London and France traded only half-day. Stefan Ecolo, strategist at Tradition in London, said he would not read too much into market moves going into year-end, given the thin volumes, noting how the upward trend was clouded by uncertainties ranging from inflation to central bank policy. The US Federal Reserve said last week it would accelerate tapering of its massive bond buying program and paved the way for 3 interest rate hikes in 2022. But this did not roil markets as it did in 2013 when the Fed tapered its post-financial crisis quantitative easing. As it looks like neither tapering nor the Omicron variant will have too much of an effect on the economy, global money is flowing into equity, said Stephen Luing, Executive Director for Institutional Sales at UOB Kay Hung in Hong Kong. Some markets, however, fell on tighter measures to contain the spread of Omicron. Chinese blue chips slipped 0.6% a day after rising infections in the northwestern city of Xi'an resulted in a lockdown of at least 13 million residents. In currency markets, the dollar index, which measures the greenback against 6 major peers, was at 95.96, down 0.1% on the day, and on course for a 0.7% drop from last Friday's close, its worst week since late August. The dollar has lost ground on most currencies, barring the yen, another safe haven. The Japanese currency was at $114.37 on Friday and 82.82 against the Australian dollar, almost the same level as in late November when news about Omicron variant first emerged. The Aussie was at 72.43 US cents, just off its 5-week peak of 72.52 hit overnight. And the pound, which struck a month high of $1.34 US on Thursday, was last at $1.34.1, up 1.4% on the week. The euro added 0.1 to $1.13.4 US cents. The yield on benchmark 10-year Treasury notes was 1.4926 at their Thursday close, having touched more than a 1-week high of 1.5010% earlier in the session as investors sold government bonds as part of a risk-on mood. In line with the same trend, Bitcoin rose 4.5% on Thursday, its best day in nearly 2 weeks, and held onto the gains on Friday in Europe, trading just above 51,000, up 0.6%. Trading partners in the world's largest cryptocurrency are gradually becoming more aligned with risk-on and risk-off movements in traditional markets as institutional investors' influence grows. Oil prices fell in light holiday trade, snapping a 3-day rally. Brent crude futures slid 1.2% to $75.94 a barrel. US markets are closed. The weak dollar helped spot gold hit its highest in more than 1 month in Asian trade before pairing gains. It was last at $1,807.90 per ounce, flat on the day, but set for a weekly gain of 0.6%. So, it looks like Omicron fears are subsiding. People are anticipating, a good economic recovery next year. And we'll see an article from CBA predicting, much higher growth than anticipated next year. Let's jump over to this screen and have a look. What we've got here, this is South Africa, guys. This is showing you the weekly case numbers. And here we're seeing the South African spike in Omicron. And below it, this here is the deaths. Now, there's about a 2-week delay before the deaths here. So this one here, on the 19th, we've got to go back 2 weeks. So you've got to go back, boom, boom, the 2-week incubation period. So for 70,000 cases, the deaths are no different to when we had only, what was this? Pretty much 3,900 cases. The deaths are all the same. We haven't seen any spike up in the death rates. Now, one would argue this is entailing either, the mortality of it is lower, or the fact that the South African population, the average age, is a lot lower than other countries. Then one could hazard a guess that the hospitalization of the majority of the population isn't going to be affected by this as much. Hopefully. It's good news. I'm knocking wood here looking at this. This is giving me optimistic expectations for next year. But of course, our politicians will take some time before they respond to this, everyone. So we'll jump back here. And let's have a bit of a talk, guys. I think the issue we're going to see is, even if everything's good with Omicron, there's going to be some time before the bureaucratic class will loosen the reins, before they'll be brave enough to put their head above the trench and to allow, to not go as hard with their restrictions and interventions. There'll be some delay, but as the caseloads on hospitals, the one person we had in ICU here in Queensland with the coronavirus has been taken out of it. We've got no one in ICU now with it. Case numbers are surging. They're going to be people that are scared and that are afraid because, they're probably living in the media world. Hopefully, next year will be a good year. That's what I'm expecting. What about you guys? We'll have to see. Anyway, thanks for watching. And I want you to check out this last video I did about, nightmare Omicron predictions won't happen. Remember, the media latches onto the negative, guys. I'm no different. It's YouTube. Negative stuff gets the views. So you've got to account for that when with what you're being exposed to. Take care.